One of the things that I'm most often asked about when people send me emails and messages, and from friends as well who come to see me at my house, is how do you keep your house so neat and tidy all the time? And I think because it's something that I don't really have to think about these days, I'm allowed to admit that it's true. If you arrived unannounced at my house, at any given time, it's going to be more than likely that it's going to be tidy and neat. And that is because I have come up with a system of rules. And I say rules very fluidly. It's not like I am living like in the army, like in the military or something. But it's kind of a working practice that I live by that has helped me to maintain a neat and tidy home without really having to put too much effort into it. It's just become one of those things that is a lifestyle, a way of life that is now really, really simple and easy. And I have to tell you, it wasn't always this way. When I was growing up, my mum kept our house absolutely immaculate, and I always think about this now that I'm older, how on earth she did it. I've got no clue, because she worked 4 jobs, she was constantly busy rushing around, and our house was tiny with a lot of people living in it. There was me, my sister, my brother, my dad, and my grandfather, who lived with us for my whole life until he died when I was 17. So it was a crowded house, but still the house was always beautifully tidy, it was clean. The sheets were always washed once a week, our laundry was always done, our beds were made, we had to do that ourselves by the way, and we did help with some of the chores, but everything was clean, neat and tidy. And for a house full of people, children and parents who worked constantly, I think that was a great achievement. So salute you, Mum, you did an amazing job. So yeah, when I was growing up, I lived in a very tidy home, but I wasn't a particularly tidy person. In fact, I remember my mum just despairing with me because I just found it so difficult to put my clothes away, to keep things tidy, and for someone who was neat like her, it must have drove her mad. I just often think about that nowadays. If I had to live with the young version of me, I would be furious because I was just not very tidy, it just wasn't in me. And then when I moved out when I was 18, I obviously wanted to have a home like I'd always lived in, a neat and tidy one. And it's not until you move out and have your own home, I think, that you realise how important it is to you if you've had that your whole life. And it didn't take me long to quickly figure out, oh, I'm not somebody who likes mess. But because I didn't have these systems that I've now learnt in place, I just could not get on top of keeping my house neat and tidy. It would stay that way for a few days, and then I'd rush off to work and dump clothes on the floor, and then they'd pile up and up and up. I would cook in the evening and be too tired to do the dishes, so I'd think I'll do that tomorrow, and then tomorrow would come and I'd have to go off to work again, and I just couldn't keep up with it. So my house quickly became a mess, and I felt uncomfortable. I didn't want to come home because the house wasn't tidy, and I wanted to relax, but I couldn't because the house was a mess. So I hadn't mastered it then. In the last 6-7 years, I would say, I have mastered how to keep my home tidy. So today I wanted to share with you the 5 rules that I live by that keep my home beautiful. Now, of course, rules are something that can be broken. That's why they're called rules, I always believe. And we are human beings who have lives, we have things going on, we're busy. So you're not going to always be able to keep on top of those rules, but that's okay. It's completely fine. You don't have to be perfect, but if you can live by them 99% of the time, you're going to have a home that is neat, tidy, and somewhere where you can truly relax and be at peace. And for me, that is the most important thing. In my busy life, when I'm away travelling, or if I'm out having a meeting, or if I've gone out all day with friends, one of the things that I have to have when I come home is a sense of order and calm and peace, where I feel, yeah, I can come in, I can lay on the sofa with a coffee or a tea or an alcoholic drink, I can read a book, I can light a candle, and I'm not looking around at clutter, mess, and an environment that is just not soothing. So I hope that you will find these rules useful. Knowing you as my audience, I think that most of you will have them down already, but I think it's still interesting to see how other people live. And on that note, do let me know in the comments if any of them resonate with you, or if you have any of your own that you'd like to add, because I find this very interesting. For me, the way that people live is fascinating. We all have our own quirks, our own way of life, and peeking in through the curtain at other people's lives, I think, is endlessly fascinating. So let me know, and I hope that you enjoy this one. So my first rule is I always make the bed. Now, at this point, I kind of feel like a broken record, because the amount of times I've talked about making the bed on this channel and everywhere else online is just becoming ridiculous. But I truly believe that it is one of those principles of life that set you up so well. If you're a person who gets up in the morning and after you've had your shower or done whatever you've done, makes the bed, I just think it really says a lot about who you are. And for me, it is just one of those very easy, small wins to start your day. And for me, that just gets me going. If I wake up in the morning, take a shower, have a coffee, and then make the bed, I just feel like I've restored calm. The room looks great, even if the rest of it is not tidy. If you've got a well-made bed, the room instantly looks better. And it's just a small win that you can say, yes, I've done that, I've achieved something very first thing in the morning. One of the excuses that a lot of people do comment on this channel is, oh, you shouldn't make the bed first thing in the morning, you need to let it air out. Yeah, you probably do, but you can either get out of bed, pull back the sheets, go and have a shower, have a coffee, leave it for 20 minutes, then make the bed. Or sometimes, because I often just rush out to go to the gym and I want to come back to a made bed, I will make the bed, but I will do it by leaving the covers back. So I'll pull the covers back, fold the duvet over once so it looks neat, pull all the sheets tight, fluff the pillows, put them up, and the bed can still be aired out that way. So yeah, you don't need to go off to work and leave it to air all day. I think just make the bed. It will make you feel so much better. Now, this is one of those things that I couldn't quite master when I was growing up and when I had my first home. I don't know what it is about making the bed first thing in the morning until you get used to doing it, but it just seems to be, oh, I've got to make the bed again. It's one of those chores that is just not very good. So what I would do is I'd think, I'm too tired, I've got to get ready for work, I've got to be out here in 10 minutes, I'll do that when I come home. And then I would spend the whole day out working, and I'd come back and I'd walk in to go to bed and I'd think, ugh, and now I've got to get into that awful lumpy bed with all the sheets strewn everywhere, and it just didn't make me feel excited or comfortable about going to sleep. And it has such an impact if you are one of those people who likes order and calm and things looking their best. So the point is that I'm making, tomorrow never comes, later never comes, you have to deal with it at some point. So I think better to deal with it now rather than later. So yeah, making the bed is my first rule that I always keep every single day. And when you do make it this habit, it kind of becomes one of those things like brushing your teeth that you just don't even think about anymore. So yeah, I get up in the morning. If I'm not going to the gym, I'll have a shower, then I'll make the bed. If I am going to the gym, I'll pull back the covers, freshen it up, make it look neat, and it can still air out. But when I come to go to bed in the evening, it looks great and I want to get into my bed. Rule number 2, I always do the dishes. So if making the bed sets the tone for the rest of the day, doing the dishes sets the tone for tomorrow. Now, this is another one of those things that 18-year-old to 25-year-old Nicholas didn't really master. I knew what I had to do, but I just couldn't get into it. It's often the way. So what I would do is I would cook a beautiful dinner, set the table, light candles, have a glass of wine. It was a beautiful ceremony. And then, when I'd finished eating, I'd walk everything through to the kitchen, and yes, there was chaos in there, especially when I was living with somebody else and I was cooking for 2. And I'd just think, oh, I've had a lovely meal, I'm tired, I'll deal with this tomorrow. And then you wake up in the morning, you get out of bed, you're starting a fresh day, you walk into the kitchen and you're greeted with piles of pots and pans and mess. And that for me just used to be soul destroying. So again, like making the bed, if you don't do it first thing in the morning, you have to deal with it at some point. You just need to deal with those things and get them done. So this rule is one of those things where, again, when you master it, it becomes something really easy. And what I found is that often the kitchen looks worse than it is. And in actual fact, it will take you about 5 minutes just to rinse off dishes. If you have a dishwasher like I do, pop them in, quickly wipe over the countertops. It takes about 5 to 7 minutes. It never takes as long as you think. It always looks worse than it is. But it's one of those things that when it's done, in the evening, you can just get on with your evening, relax, do what you're doing, and the calm, the peace that you don't have to wake up in the morning and see a pile of mess is just the most wonderful, wonderful thing. So doing the dishes is a great thing for your future self to do for the next day. It will set you up for the evening and it will set you up for the next day. Get into the habit, it will change your life. Before we move on to my next rule, I wanted to share something really beautiful with you. So you know how I'm always talking about making life more beautiful in the simple, everyday things that you can just add to your life. Well, one of my favourite personal care companies, Wild, which I've talked about quite a lot, who make my favourite deodorants, lip balms and personal care items, they've teamed up with luxury fashion brand Love Shack Fancy to bring this new collection of personal care products which are so beautiful. I mean, I've always loved their sustainable, recyclable, refillable designs, but now they've been elevated even more with this Love Shack Fancy collaboration that I just love. So we've got here a body wash, a stick deodorant, a roll-on, and a lip balm. I have to tell you, the Wild lip balms are my absolute favourite. I have them in my bag, in my gym bag, everywhere, every day, and I just pop them out. They're completely clear, no colour, but the fragrance is great. This one is brown sugar and vanilla and it smells so great. I've got it on at the moment actually and it's really, really beautiful. I just love the scent of that. So what I really love about Wild in particular is that they do create these gorgeous personal care items, but there's a real focus on that environmental factor. So this packaging is completely reusable. You order the refills online and you just add them in to this beautiful container. You can refill the deodorants, the sticks, even the lip balms, so you're not wasting. If you think about the amount of deodorants that you buy, when you finish the can, you just throw it into the bin and you never see it again. For me, that just seems so wasteful in this day and age. So the fact that they are reusable, I think, is a really wonderful thing. Not to mention that they've always come out with these really beautiful designs, like this Love Shack Fancy one that is just so unique and looks great in your bathroom or on your dressing table. So this stick deodorant is hibiscus and coconut, and the fragrance is so summery. It's like summer on a stick deodorant, kind of like being at a beach with a pina colada or something like that. Really gorgeous. The roll-on deodorant is pear blossom, really beautiful, really fruity, fresh, clean. The lip balm, as I said, is brown sugar and vanilla, which is just stunning. And the body wash is also hibiscus and coconut, so you get that really fresh, summery vibe when you're showering, which is always a really great thing. So I've been using Wild, I'd say, for the last 2 years, and what I love, as well as this environmentally friendly, refillable packaging and the designs that they create for them, is the fact that the scents are really great natural ingredients. They last all day long. I mean, you can use either the stick or the roll-on and you're not going to have to worry about that for the whole day, even in weather like we've been having in the UK recently, which has been scorchingly hot. You are protected from smelling or sweating from these. They really do a great job, and as I mentioned, the lip balm is one of my go-to essentials. So if you would like to check out this gorgeous collaboration between Wild and Love Shack Fancy for yourselves, I'm delighted to offer you a 20% discount. All you need to do is scan the QR code that is on screen now, or you can click the link in the description box and you simply use the code Nicholas and you will get 20% off. It's a great deal, a great bargain for such a lovely, lovely collaboration and product. I genuinely love this brand. It is great for the environment, it looks great in your bathroom, and the fragrances that are used in the products are clean, beautiful, and just lovely. My third rule is the chair is not a wardrobe. When I was growing up, I told you that my mother was very, very neat and tidy, and one of the things that used to drive her absolutely crazy was my inability to put away my clothes. And I've thought about this quite a lot, I've reflected on it, and I don't really understand why I couldn't get this into my head. And there were so many times that she would sit with me and demonstrate. She'd see the pile of clothes there, and she'd say, "Look, Nick, this jumper, get a hanger, put it on, put it away. It takes 10 seconds. These jeans, fold them over the hanger, put them in, 10 seconds. There's no reason why, when you take off your clothes in the evening, there's no reason why you can't just hang them. Instead, I would throw them on a chair, throw them on the bed, sometimes even throw them on the floor. And when you see that in the morning, again, it's one of those things where you're like, I don't want to deal with this now, I'll do it later. Later never comes, and the pile grows bigger. And if you're like my mum, she would go crazy. I remember the amount of times that she used to just lose her mind. She'd been telling me for weeks and I wasn't listening, so she'd just grab my clothes and throw them out the window into the garden, and then I'd have to go down and fetch them. And at the time I used to remember rolling my eyes thinking, this is so dramatic. But again, if I had to live now with a teenage gay boy who loved changing his outfits 15 times a day and his clothes were everywhere, I would probably lose my mind too. It must have been so frustrating. So now I make this one of my very firm rules. Every time I get changed, even when I'm rushing out, going to an event, if I've tried on a few things, I always make sure that I will hang my clothes before I leave the house, because it's just one of those things now where I think, it would be quite easy to slip into that old habit of not hanging up my clothes, and then I'm going to get into a mess. So it's just so much easier. It takes literally 10 seconds to hang things up, put them back in the wardrobe, and then peace is restored. So in my home, clothes exist in 3 places only with this rule. They're either on me, I'm wearing them, they're in the wardrobe, or they're in the laundry basket. They are not anywhere else. They're not on a chair, they're not on a stool at the end of the bed, they're not laying on the bed, they're never on the floor. They're always away in a laundry basket, or I'm wearing them. And I think if you can master that one, it's one of those things where you stop something from building up, which can become really overwhelming. You have a system in place where you've got your wardrobe, it's organised, it's neat, you've got hangers for everything, you've got a place for everything, and you don't have to worry about clothes ever being on the floor. My 4th rule is everything has a home. Now this, I would say, is the rule that I am personally most proud of, because I think if teenage me could look into my home and see how everything is beautifully organised, he would be so shocked, because it's just something that he could never have imagined that he'd be able to keep. And what I'm proud about the most is that you could come into my house, you could open any drawer, any cupboard, any closet, and you would find that it would be organised and everything would have a place. So if you're looking for batteries, if you're looking for light bulbs, if you're looking for picture hooks, if you're looking for cables, if you're looking for pens, if you're looking for hats, gloves and scarves, if you're looking for glasses, you will find a home for everything. The great example of this is my chest of drawers that sits by the door. It has the bar on top. It looks like a beautiful piece of furniture, but really that chest of drawers is doing a lot of hard work. It's storing a lot of stuff. So the top drawer, because it's by the door, has my sunglasses, gloves, scarves in the 2nd drawer. In the 3rd drawer, it has all of my photography equipment, cables, chargers, cameras, laptops, things like that. And then in the bottom drawer, it has files, papers, paperwork. So that is a beautiful piece of furniture, but it's doing its job of storing a lot of stuff. And when you have a place for everything, when you do need to tidy, it suddenly becomes really quick and easy. That is one of the things I like about living in my house. If there's ever anything out of place, I can quickly tidy up in 1 minute, because I know if there's a light bulb out, where the light bulbs go. If a pack of batteries are out, where the batteries go. If I've took out some medicine, I know where that will go back. If I've took out a charging cable, that can go back in a minute. Everything has a home. If you don't have a home for things, what you'll end up doing is walking around not knowing what to do with it, or you'll just shove it in a drawer, and you'll shove up something else in the drawer, and then eventually you'll have a drawer that is filled with just crap, basically. A drawer that is just filled with chaos, disorder, and everything everywhere. Whereas if you have a place for everything, tidying becomes this quick thing of, oh, that goes there, that goes there, that goes there, that goes there, and suddenly the house is tidy again. And that is one of the things that I can say about my home. I am not a clean freak. I'm not constantly going around cleaning all the time. That to me is my worst nightmare. I don't enjoy cleaning at all. But it's tidy, and when your home is tidy, it looks clean. And then once a week, you can dust, you can mop, you can hoover, do the bathrooms a few times a week, do the kitchen every day, and your home is clean, tidy and neat. And people come in and go, oh wow, this is a neat freak, when really you're just somebody who lives very easily. It's great. I think it was about 2 years ago that I really went through my home and set out places for everything. And I can honestly say, since then, so for 2 years, I haven't had ever a case where my house is messy and there's things that I don't know what to do with. And every drawer that you go into that I organised 2 years ago, it's exactly the same as it was. The light bulbs are all there, the charging cables are all there. They haven't moved from their home. They're still there, the system is still in place. And that just shows you how easy it is once you've set up the system for it to stay where it is. It doesn't need to change. You don't need to do anything different, and you can keep that going for years and years and years. So you'll always have a tidy home. So my fifth and final rule is I edit constantly. Now, I would say that this is probably the most difficult one to master out of all the other rules. And also, I would try to focus on the other ones first before you try to become an expert at editing. Editing was something that I would say my mother was Olympic level at. She was ruthless when it came to clutter and keeping things that were not necessary. Every few weeks she would go through our house and she would edit. And by that I mean she would look at stuff laying around. Why have we got this pamphlet lying here? Is anybody reading it? Throw it away. Why have you got this jumper that you never wear? Take it to the charity shop. I used to argue with her all the time, like, Mum, I might want to wear this in a few weeks, or I might need this, or I might need that. And she would be ruthless about it. She'd just say no. And at the time I used to think it was so odd. But looking back, I realised that if she didn't take on this responsibility, then our house could quickly descend into chaos. 6 people living there, all with their own lives, their own little lives, all wanting to have their own little things. Imagine our tiny house filled with all of that. If she didn't edit constantly, it would be chaos. And I've seen the way that some people live. It is like that. They're living in chaos because they can't ever edit their lives and throw things away that they no longer need. So when I look around my home, I always have to say to myself, something needs to be very beautiful that I love, or it needs to be useful. And if it's not one of those two things, then it really doesn't have a place in my home. I edit my wardrobe constantly, probably once a month. I will go through my wardrobe and I will really, truly, honestly look at everything and ask myself, do you wear this still? Is it in its best condition? Do you really want this? Do you have too many white t-shirts now? And I will, before I even try to convince myself that I'm going to keep something, if I even have to think about it a little bit, then really it should be gone. And I'm always at the charity shop. They absolutely love me at the charity shop because I'm constantly taking clothes, books that I've read, things that I don't longer need. And that makes me feel great that I'm giving something to a more worthwhile cause than having it just stuck in my home, not doing anything. And it is so nice when you do that. Your home is free of things that you don't need, and then it's just so much easier to keep clean, neat and tidy. So yeah, the way that my mum was so great at editing out is one of the things that I admire her for. She had to be the bad guy in our home. She had to be the one keeping everything neat, tidy and in order. That was her job as our mother. And she knew that she had to do things in our home that were perhaps unpopular or that didn't see her in the best light, but she had to be the bad guy to keep our home peaceful. And I have to tell you, our home it was calm, it was clean, it was tidy, it was peaceful. And for such a small house, that is quite an achievement, and that is because of her. So thank you, Mum, for keeping our home tidy and lovely and making it a lovely place to grow up. So yeah, the more you edit, the lighter your home will begin to feel. You will probably find that you're enjoying living in your home more. I remember when I first really did a really big edit 2 years ago, like I mentioned earlier, I spent about 3 days really editing my home, going through everything. In fact, Nathan helped me with it. And when it was all done, I remember for the first few weeks, I would just open a cupboard and look at it and look at how beautiful it was and how organised it was. And I think, oh, look at my drawer with all these charging cables wrapped in ribbon. It's just so pleasurable, and you just feel so light and free. There's nothing worse than being in a home where you don't feel free because it's a mess. So do the difficult work of editing out, of getting everything organised, and you're going to live with the benefits of that for so long that you'll just feel so happy. So let me know what you think of these 5 rules. And I know some of my more cynical members of my audience, which are very few by the way, will say these rules are ridiculous. There's nothing revolutionary in what you've said, there's nothing mind-blowing or groundbreaking. But that's the point of them. They're really simple, easy things that we can all do that just make life so much easier and so much better. And you know, for me, having a beautiful home has never been about impressing other people. It's been about me walking through the door after a long day, after a week of travel, and just feeling a sense of, I'm home, I'm at peace, I'm comfortable, I'm happy, this is my little haven. It's about creating a home that is your piece of paradise where you can relax. You know, we all have really difficult lives, whatever circumstances we have. We all go through ups and downs. We have happiness and sadness. We have stress, and sometimes we don't. But we all have these full lives where if you can have a home that is that place where you can just be yourself and be at peace, it's a really wonderful thing that you really do deserve. So that's why it's so important to me to live this way, just to give myself an easier, more relaxed, beautiful life. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video and found it useful. Even if it was just one thing that you can take away from the video, I think that is a great thing. As I said before, please let me know the things or the rules that you have to make your life more beautiful, more calm, more orderly. I'm be very interested to read about them. Thank you so much for joining me, as always. I look forward to seeing you next time, but until then, take care. Bye-bye.